Hello and welcome to Hard On Hardware. Now, we've all been shocked lately by how massively expensive GPUs have become, and to be fair, the same goes for RAM. It's become just hugely expensive. And this whole trend has gotten me thinking, how much is my PC worth today? A PC that I built in September of last year, so it's only a couple of months old, but it might be worth a lot more today than it was when I bought it. Let's see how much this craze has pushed up the price of a PC with a GTX 1080 in it. Now, I've been hearing reports all over the internet of people complaining about how expensive the higher end NVIDIA graphics cards have become. I mean, obviously the same goes for the Vega cards, but they've always been hugely overpriced. But I thought, what are we looking at? Like $600-700 for a GTX 1080? How bad can this really be? So I fire up Amazon and type in GTX 1080, and I was shocked. $1,000 for a GTX 1080 is ridiculous. So I thought maybe it's just Amazon being crazy. Maybe Newegg will give you more reasonable prices, even though I know they're famous for being unreasonable with their markup. And the story's the same. They're hugely expensive there as well. And that's where I think the premise for this video gets quite interesting, because I think my PC is worth quite a lot more now than it was when I initially bought it, because at this point, buying one, you'd probably have to mortgage your house. Let's do a quick rundown of the components that I have in my PC. Now, for the CPU, I have a Ryzen 1700X, which I think is like the only component in the machine at the moment that's actually going to be cheaper today than it was when I initially bought it. For a graphics card, I have a Palit GTX 1080 Super Jetstream thing, which you don't really get in the States. They're very rare there, so I'm going to use a different graphics card's price off of like Newegg. As far as storage goes, for my operating system, I have a 960 EVO 500 gig. I don't know how their prices look today, but we'll find out pretty soon. And as far as memory goes, I've got a 16 gig kit of 3000 megahertz Dominator Platinums, which I'm also a bit terrified to see their current pricing of. I'm going to include the power supply, the case, and a basic CPU cooler in it as well. I'm not going to include the liquid cooling gear that I have in it, because that's just not a realistic test, and I don't think the price has gone up for that. So as far as the case goes, I've got an Enthoo Pro M tempered glass edition. The power supply is an RM850X from Corsair, and the cooler that I'm going to use is a Hyper 212X by Cooler Master, because that's the cooler that I had on it before I liquid cooled the PC. So how I was going to go about actually finding the price difference between building the PC today and the 1st of September was by just kind of putting the whole list of components into PC Part Picker, and then just use the history price graph thing to show me the difference. Now, that didn't work very well, because yeah, it gave me the number of $2,200 for the PC today from various kind of shops. With the cheapest prices, and it had the cheapest 1080 in it, which is a Zotac GTX 1080 Amp Edition, not the Amp Extreme. And the price graph, though, was a bit weird, because the earliest date that it gave me was the 1st of October, and at the 1st of October it was $1,750. Now, the issue with that is that that price is excluding tax, which I think the current price that it gives is including tax. So if you add the VAT, whatever it is, the difference isn't actually that huge. And if you look at the actual fluctuations in the graph, they're very small. So I thought this isn't the best way to do it. How I'm going to try and do it is use only Amazon's price, because it's the easiest pricing to track, then use a tracking website called Camel, which you just put the kind of the URL in of the component, and it gives you the price history over the last year. So I used that for all of the components, and again, I used the Zotac GTX 1080 Amp because they're usually quite cheap. And the price difference was pretty terrifying. So when in the 1st of September, when I built this PC, you could have it for about $1,660, which seems about right for a PC with a 1080 and a Ryzen CPU in it. But today, that price is $2,395, which is a $750 difference. That difference is so big, in September you could have bought another GTX 1080 and then still have had $150 over, and you could have spent that on like more stuff in the PC. That's a huge difference. So basically the point here is that miners should just stop. Now, there is a bit of good news because Nvidia has apparently recently announced to suppliers that they don't want them to sell to miners anymore. They want them to sell the GPUs specifically to gamers. Now, the two biggest price increased components, I could have probably put that better, but whatever, is the graphics card, which was literally double the price. It was $600 in September and is $1,200 now. And then the actual memory also just about doubled in value. The rest of the components stayed pretty much the same, except for the motherboard, which is weirdly cheaper today than it was back then. It was $20 more in September, and I seem to have bought my Ryzen 1700X at a very good time because, well, it's actually the same value as it is today, so I think I might have gotten it on special or something. But yes, thank you very much for watching. If you're completely outraged about the current pricing of PC components, do like this video and subscribe to the channel. I don't know why subscribing will show that, but just give it a try. There's some great content coming, hopefully. And yes, thank you for watching. Goodbye.